Hey everyone, welcome back to Free the Money. Today I'm joined again by Dr. Jim Willie to break down what's really going on beneath the headlines, from war and oil to the bond market and the future of the US economy. Dr. Jim Willie holds a PhD in statistics. He is a statistical analyst and an expert in macroeconomics. Welcome to the show, Dr. Jim Willie.
We're in dangerous times. Since I moved, we started a new war.
Yeah, yes, we
and,
did.
And, we have to remember they're all noble, right? They're all noble wars. we're always in a war and they're all noble, right? We're fighting for freedom, right? The war on terrorism in 2002, that was to eliminate the competitors for Langley who were selling to eliminate their competitors. That's the war on terrorism. Okay, I'm not in favor of this war. I'm a patriot, and I don't like the infiltration of Iranian cells in the United States.
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of things, but I don't like blowing up girls' schools either.
Yeah. I think the majority of Americans would agree with that.
I want to get away from the let's just call it the psychosis of war. I don't want to focus on that. What I would prefer to do is to focus on. I like taking notes. I'm just jotting down what day it is today.
Oh yeah.
I would like to focus on the consequences of war. To begin with, I don't know, war. You wanted to talk about the war. We've got to cover it because it is. It's so entangled. You don't just have we're going to have a war over there and it'll be okay. And, 20 minutes, everything will be fine. Okay. It doesn't work that way. Did you know the Civil War was expected in 1860? What was it? 65, 62. It was expected to be a 3-month war. We're going to, drive those rebels into the ground and everything's going to be great. Okay. It's never short. The Vietnam War was supposed to be like, 6 to 12 months and we'll, fix things and everything will be fine. The trouble is that too many corporations make a lot of money with war. The trouble is that there's a lot of aggression and they're targets that are created. And it's a great opportunity to vanquish and eliminate the target. Let's do it. What I like to focus on, Bree, is the consequences of war. This war, not just war, this war. What it's going to result in. Let me try to back off a little bit on the confidence that I have for various expectations and forecasts. Let me just say that we're on a path that leads to dangerous places. Will we avoid the dangerous destinations? I can't, I'm sorry, these are a little annoying, but I can't read very well. And if I have you out of focus, I'm very unhappy. Okay. War brings about consequences. When you hit an Islamic nation, it's a little different. When you hit a nation that's predominantly Shiite, it's very different. I don't know. I'm not an expert in religion, but I don't know any religion that has made a greater ritual out of vengeance than the Shiite sect of Islam. If we decapitated their top level of government. And, it just wasn't Khamenei. It was about 30 of his top officials. Okay, I got to explain something that I learned. And just keep in mind that I'm not in the military loop. I get drips. I get little pieces of intel from the Florida wingman, and so far not from the other email intel. But the Iranian leaders had been conditioned. They noticed that in the last 3 attacks on Iran, they came in the middle of the night. So they expected the next one to be in the middle of the night, and it came instead at 8:30 in the morning. All right. I got to mention something that Scott Ritter has explained very well, and that is Pete Hegseth, who I respect as a defense secretary. Now we call it the war secretary. We're not beating around the bush anymore. It's the Secretary of War. It's the War Department, because we're at war every year. Every year we have a war. Pete Hegseth eliminated a certain level of verification of targets. He eliminated it in March of last year. And what it did was to do a double check to make sure that a target was not civilian. And the little girl's school used to be a missile site in the headquarters. And the U.S. military knew that it no longer was, like several months ago. They upgraded for, monitoring the Hormuz Straits. And Hegseth removed that layer of verification of targets. Rather talk about the economic and financial consequences.
The effect it's going to have on America, obviously, with oil prices, with the Strait. Are we actually putting China in check? There's so many questions.
Well, let me get to a couple of really critical points that are very interesting. And that is, Iran has said if a ship and its cargo are going to be paid, the final payment settlement, if it's going to be in Chinese currency, they can pass through the Hormuz Strait.
I have heard that too. That
is very interesting. At the same time, Trump and Bessent, our Treasury Secretary, have announced that ships seeking a destination, like to China, they will be permitted to go and deliver their oil on the oil tanker, because that will bring down the price of oil, because it'll increase the supply. So they're going to unsanction certain Iranian oil tankers, which is interesting. Okay, drive down the price. There's another very interesting point that Lloyd's of London seems to be out of the room when it comes to insuring the ships. But let me get to my view and my forecasts. I want to be careful with the word forecasts.
Okay.
Let's just say they're my expectations to monitor. They might not happen, but I think they will, and they've already started.
Okay.
I don't want them to happen, because I'm a patriot of the United States. I'm back in the United States. I love my country. And in the Olympics, I always pull for our athletes, except for the people in the women's competition who have testicles. I've been saying now for 3 weeks to my colleagues and my buddies, the U.S. military is at a high risk now of being disinvited from the entire Gulf region. This is not in the news. There's no news that U.S. military might be expelled from the Prince Sultan Air Base of Saudi Arabia. That's not in the news. But in the UAE, the Emirates just told the Americans, you got to get out of our port. UAE Emirates said that regarding Dubai. What I find funny is that most Americans probably could not identify Saudi Arabia on a map. They certainly couldn't identify Ukraine, and they've never been able to identify Vietnam. I missed Vietnam by that much. I was 19.
Okay.
Um, Notice that Iran is blowing up various energy facilities
Mm-hmm.
in the Gulf region.
Yep.
They've blown up in Bahrain. They've blown up in the UAE.
Mm-hmm.
There were some events, I believe, in Qatar. Iran has let it be known that any Gulf monarchy that has U.S. military on their soil, that has military strikes, whether they're missiles or whatever, airborne, Air Force, or whether their airspace is used. That's a big issue, airspace. Can you go over Oman to hit Iran? Wait a minute. You need permission from Oman. Okay. They're not getting that uniformly. They're not. So therefore, Iran is declaring that all energy facilities for, let's just call them nations because they're monarchies, for any nation that hosts U.S. military, that engages in strikes, all those energy facilities are military targets. So that's why they're hitting them.
Yeah, of course.
Now, the output is down about 40 or 50%. I'm going to get specifics because I started a few days ago the report for March from the newsletter. And this is going to be a tough one because in February, we were just, beginning things. And I left that entire topic alone in the February newsletter.
Yeah, just to see what plays out.
Oh, yeah, to see how it erupts, to see how it gets out of control, to see how the retaliation comes. There is so much going on that is not being discussed.
Yeah.
I believe the United States is trying to coerce the monarchies to support the war more. But the monarchies are saying, is this to eradicate terrorism globally? Is this about to liberate the Gulf of Hormuz? Or is this to protect the little country in the north from Iranian nuclear attack?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to just say something, Bree, and I have no doubts at all of what I'm saying. This war has very little to do with nuclear anything. The nuclear deal, the Iran nuclear deal, what was it? I think 2014, correct me if I'm wrong. The Iran nuclear deal that Obama signed, I believe that had very little to do with nuclear anything and had a lot to do with narcotics and had a lot to do with payoffs, I believe, to hide stolen gold.
Interesting.
Obama and Hillary, this is what my intel is telling me. Obama and Hillary stole $100 billion worth of gold. But I don't know exactly where they stole it. Might have been West Point. Okay, let's face it. Fort Knox has been empty for 25 years. Okay. They didn't steal anything from Fort Knox. I heard a long time ago when I started the newsletter, it was about 04, 05, right around there. I heard that Fort Knox was a warehouse for nerve gas. Okay, very interesting, nerve gas. So a year ago now, we were talking about an audit of Fort Knox, and it never happened. I think because their preliminary audit showed that there was no gold in Fort Knox. And the gold that they did find, they were tungsten bars with gold plating. Okay, so I think the gold that Obama and Hillary stole and stored in Iran with a fee of $5 billion in cash, I think that was a service payment. I think it came from the New York Fed. Might have come from West Point. Okay, the three locations. Fort Knox, West Point, New York Fed. That's where our gold is held. Whew. Okay, let's get back to the consequences. What's coming next, in my opinion, and we've already seen it with Saudi Arabia, they're going to pull back from U.S. Treasury bond demand and support. Yeah. Saudis have already announced that. And they're not really getting a big argument from the United States, because I think the Exchange Stabilization Fund is a gigantic hoover for that. Oh gosh. The Exchange Stabilization Fund is something that I don't think even 2% of Americans know exists. And those who do know that it exists are usually very careful when they talk about it, because it's a high security tool. It's a vault. It's a fund. Rob Kirby and I had an interesting discussion a year before he was murdered. Rob Kirby was a colleague of mine. He was in my group. He's he was a Toronto-based bank analyst. And I said, Rob, I think they got probably $5-8 trillion sitting in the ESF. And he said, no, Jim, it's more like 15 or 20. And they use it with leverage to buy whatever is needed. And I go, wow, that's double what I thought, Rob. Are you certain? He said, I'm pretty sure about it. Yeah. Well, that topic is what got Rob Kirby murdered. So let me just say that the ESF uses its collateral with treasury bonds to borrow money and buy other treasury bonds that are being dumped. So if the Gulf Arabs are going to dump tens of billions of dollars worth of treasury bonds, I think the ESF will soak it up using leverage against what they're already holding. But I believe very firmly that their holdings are down $2 or $3 trillion in the last 2 or 3 years. 2 or 3 trillion in the last 2 or 3 years. The BRICS are dumping treasuries. The BRICS. And I don't want to get into a discussion. Ooh, it's very gnarly and difficult regarding USD tether.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't have to touch on it. I mean, I talk about tether a lot on here, so if you don't want to discuss it, we don't have to, but it's a pretty interesting rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole, but there's very little definitive confirmed information about it. And therefore, Bree, I believe it's connected at the hip with the ESF.
Yeah, I think it's very plausible.
Let's just say Oman or Qatar. If Qatar wants to dump $10 billion tomorrow morning of treasury bonds, how do they do it? What do they receive for it? I'm told, and it's hard to get anything confirmed. I don't think they're getting cash. I think they're getting tether. So where does the tether come from? Are you aware? You probably know this better than I do because you study it, but tether does not have any kind of an audit ever.
Yeah, never.
Okay. So we don't know where their coins come from. I tell people, do a chart on USD tether if you want to have some amusement, because it's 99.9 to 100.1. Okay, I did one yesterday. I did just for shits and giggles. Okay, where does the tether come from that was given in 10 billion volume to Qatar? Therefore, I think it comes from the ESF. Okay, I do inferences like that. I make little conclusions and say, that's what I think. Yeah, and let's leave this on the wall pending further verification. Yeah.
And then even Tether's connections to Howard Lutnick and Cantor Fitzgerald's, you can go down an entire rabbit hole. I had Aaron Day on my show recently, and he did a deep dive into that. It's very interesting.
Cantor Fitzgerald, Building 7.
Yeah, it's like it's all intertwined, and even to Bitcoin and the pilot CBDC programs, it's all connected.
Well, I'm of the opinion that the tether has a basis in the printing press and Bitcoin in the connection, in the mix, the mix. And that could be one of the reasons why Bitcoin is going down. It's getting outed as being involved as a backing for Tether. Okay, if Tether was strong, if Tether had a good Bitcoin backing, and Tether was well respected, why wouldn't Bitcoin be going up? Okay, nothing is simple with Bitcoin. But let me get back to the consequences of this war. We've got higher oil prices. I mean, they're not just a little bit higher. I'm noticing that they're like 80 cents higher around where I am. A lot of people are complaining. Now, I'm an economist. Okay, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I don't have a degree in economics. I don't know if you're aware of that. I don't have a degree in finance. I have a degree in statistics. So what I'd like to say, I had to come up with a bio in my first year. I said, I have a doctorate in statistics and I practice economics, and I'm unencumbered by the limitations of economics credentials. Because if you've got an Ivy League doctorate in economics, you're a dumb fuck. Okay? If you have a doctorate in economics from the University of Chicago, you're a dumb fuck.
Yeah.
If you have a
You probably have
doctorate in,
a very, very messed up view of how things actually work.
well, they're all Keynesians.
Yeah, of course. None of them are Austrians.
None are Austrians, right? I believe the debt. Remember, with Baby Bush, it doubled. With Obama, it doubled the debt, U.S. government debt.
Yeah.
And with the combination of Trump and the dead man who went by the name of Biden, the dead man who sat at the White House, the guy who had the funeral for Inauguration Day with the 7-gun salute, that dead man. Okay, with Trump and the dead man Biden, it doubled again. Okay, so it doubled, then doubled, then doubled. That's eightfold. Okay, so somewhere around 3 trillion was the debt when I was talking with the doofus who had a doctorate from Cornell in economics, who told me that no amount of debt would ever be a problem.
Yeah, he probably loves Tether. He probably loves Tether now.
could be.
Debt is at historic highs, geopolitical tensions are rising, and central banks are quietly accumulating gold, the most they've ever accumulated in the century. Historically, when headlines are quiet around certain assets, that's when strong long-term positions are built. Are you ready for what is about to happen? Because right now, many people are just listening to what Wall Street is marketing. However, I use iTrust Capital, and with iTrust Capital, I'm able to buy physical gold and physical silver, many cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP, all inside a tax-advantaged IRA or within a taxable account. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for self-custody, but during these uncertain times, I do believe it is very important to be able to have the ability to cash out quickly and effortlessly without having to find a dealer that's going to give you the best rates. And that's why I truly believe in iTrust Capital. If you sign up using the link down below, you'll get a $100 funding bonus. Take charge of your financial future with iTrust Capital.
When we were done, I said, well, thank you, Ron. This has been really instructive for me. And he said, well, I'm glad you learned a few things. And I said, what I learned is that a doctorate from an Ivy League school doesn't teach you shit about debt. And he said, excuse me? And I said, well, remember this conversation in 5-10 years from now when the debt is unmanageable for the U.S. government. And he said, oh, it'll never be unmanageable. And where I left out, where I screwed up, Bree, I screwed up. I should have said there will come a day when the interest on the debt is bigger than the military budget.
You should have, and then you would have been getting an apology letter.
Well, in 2009, I said, okay, years later, 5 years later, 4 years later, I made a forecast that in 2009, this is post-Lehman, which I gave a 1-year advance notice on, 1 year. It was from the credit default swap. I said in 2009, we're going to have $1 trillion annual deficits for as far as the eye can see. Mm-hmm. And by 2020, give or take, we're going to have a government debt default.
Wow.
United States is part of the British
Yeah.
Crown. No one argues that Canada is. Well, they call it a Commonwealth, part of the Five Eyes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Canada is part of the British Commonwealth.
And then
But
even a lot of the Caribbean too.
oh yeah, Cayman
Yeah.
and Bermuda. Those typically have a lot of trade. You see it,
St.
Bree.
Kitts, St. Kitts too. I didn't know that until recently.
Oh, I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
You see it in Treasury bond purchases. So,
Okay.
what, Cayman has multi-billion-dollar surpluses to justify Treasury bond purchases? No, no. Bank of England. By the way, the U.S. government credit default swap is rising.
I've been hearing about that too. Some videos on YouTube I've come across recently.
If a corporate bond has a credit default swap where they receive treasuries in the event of the corporate default, what do they get if they got a U.S. government credit default swap? Gold? You don't get a treasury bond for a treasury default.
Yeah.
What do you get? A UK gilt? I don't think so. A euro bond? I don't think so. A Japanese government bond? I don't think so. I think it could be gold.
Yeah, possibly.
It's
Possibly.
called the super currency. Oh man, oh man! I tell you, we must resolve this war,
Okay.
but we haven't yet had the severe retaliation from Iran.
Yeah.
Now, remember the story was 3 or 4 days ago. Some high-level minister of security, I don't know who he was. He was talking about payback against the Americans, and he was killed in an overnight drone hit. Are you aware that in Dallas, no, was it Dallas? No, I don't know. Maybe Dallas, maybe Austin, Texas. Might have been Austin, Texas. There was a man with they believe he was an Iranian with a shirt that said Allah Akbar.
Wow, you just cut out. You literally just cut out when you started saying that. That was kind of crazy. Can you say that again?
There was an Iranian individual who I think attacked a discotheque or a bar in Austin, Texas. That was about a week ago, maybe
I saw
10
it.
days
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
I'm seeing I have an unstable internet connection. We're going to have to go soon here.
Yeah, yeah.
We haven't yet seen the Iranian retaliations. I don't want to speculate. I
Yeah,
don't like
hopefully we
speculating like that.
hopefully we never see that.
Well, we haven't had much on U.S. soil,
Yeah.
and we're doing some shock and awe on Iranian land.
Yeah.
And there's civilians who are being killed.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm sure they're trying to minimize that, but I don't know how well that's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Pray for the safety of our country right now. Obviously we don't want to see any terrorist attacks. Scary
We're
time.
so vulnerable, it's not even funny. We got Texas refineries, New Jersey refineries. We got facilities all over the Chesapeake that are naval. Well, there's a lot of talk about the Don Road doctrine, Venezuela. I could have said some things about Venezuela, but not today. I believe we're going to see regime change. If not regime change in Cuba, we're going to see some major concessions that will be regarded as inadequate in Cuba toward liberty.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's so living in South Florida, I have a lot of friends that are Cuban, and they're very happy about the fact that they're going to be liberated, and that's obviously where they came from. And then even Venezuelan friends, the same thing. Even a lot of Persian friends. I have a ton of Persian friends from living in LA for many years as well. And everyone seems to be very happy because, obviously their people have been greatly oppressed, and especially the women. But it's just, I am very weary if who is going to take over these countries? regime changes usually don't ever end on a positive note.
We're going to see attempts to put the Shah's son.
Yeah. And he's been campaigning for his entire life. Why now? Like, is he even up for it?
Why now? Because we're going to rescue the gold and we got to
Yeah.
pay him back. Okay,
But you get what I'm saying though.
I don't have a good answer. I have only
Okay.
my flippant answer. We're going to pay them back after getting the gold. By the way, the cabal gold that's being held that Trump wants, that's not the large gold. Iran has like 50,000 tons of gold.
Wow.
It's a 5,000 year empire.
Yeah. A lot of gold.
They've got so much gold. That's why they've been targeted by the city of London. That's why they've been demonized. They've got dozens of thousands of tons of gold. I just throw out that there's 50,000.
Wow. And what do we have? 8,000?
8,000. And by the way, do you ever hear about Saudi gold?
No, not really.
Why?
I don't know. Why?
Because they're not our enemy.
Okay. Okay.
What do they have a lot of gold?
I would assume.
Is it considered sacred?
Yes.
Yeah. They've
Okay.
actually offered some of their sacred, it's not called temple gold. That's the Indian, and in India they call it temple gold.
Temple gold?
They have a word. I can't think of the right word, but it's the religious sacred gold. Saudi is offering some of it to the BRICS nations to provide a gold foundation for their financial systems, which tells me they've got a lot. I've asked my contact, give me a rough number. What do you think Saudis hold? And he said, between 50 and 100,000 tons. Yeah.
Wow.
And they don't exactly make that available for the city of London, but maybe they have somewhat. Okay, playing with the city of London is a very delicate game.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to be careful. You cross them, and before you know it, your entire family is murdered.
So will Trump cut the head of the snake?
Well, we thought we did with Khamenei in Iran.
I mean, the guy is so old.
I know, but we thought we did with 40 of his major mullahs.
And there's five people behind every one of those people to replace them.
That's what I hear, and that's what I believe. And I don't know. What we have to do is somehow bring about a mutiny with the Revolutionary Guard. It's their Praetorian Guard. And notice what Obama did with the Secret Service. He corrupted it. Notice what the Canadians did with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They're all corrupted. So that the first thing they do, they take control of the security group and the protectors. The Revolutionary Guard is the problem. And I don't know if they're going to be sufficiently supplied or supported in order to bring about a coup. But we're not done with this. You can't just say, well, we killed Khamenei. Okay, let's get surrender talks. That's so naive and stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot about this Iranian war that I don't comprehend.
Me too, and I'm not going to pretend I do. You know, I'm not a geopolitical expert.
Just keep in mind, the Iran nuclear deal was not about nukes.
Okay, yeah. Well, it has been a pleasure getting to talk with you, Dr. Jim Willie. You know, it's always so exciting having you on my show. You are so knowledgeable on so many different topics and really have opinions that I respect. So I really haven't spoken so much about this war, and I'm glad we were able to talk about it today. And, you know, I really value your opinion.
Well, I enjoy being on your show. I like talking with intelligent hosts.
Thank you.
I try to I try to make you feel more comfortable by being a jackass and, you know, revert to my roots of being a jackass. I wish people would go to the golden-jackass.com website.
Yeah.
Bree, there's a phenomenon and it's not good. It's economic depression, recession, and there's a very big movement in the last 5 or 8 years. People prefer a video than they do a newsletter to read.
Yeah.
And I'm selling a newsletter, and that's the source of my income. But I also have a donate button, and I've got MJ. MJ, you're a sweetheart. I love you dearly.
Do you take crypto donations as well?
Sure.
Okay, cool. It's called Coin Donor. We should get you set up on there, and you can accept literally any single crypto, privacy coins, everything, so that it's easier for
I
you to. You
prefer
should include that.
mainly Bitcoin, which I convert to XRP.
Okay. Why don't you?
Um,
You should. Yeah, that's great. But also then, like, you can have it private as well. If you want.
um, I'd like to talk to you about that because I don't want to give my wallet address because I
Yeah.
might get hacked.
Yeah. We'll have to. We gotta get you on some privacy coins so that you can have peace of mind with all
I'm
of that.
I'm not an expert in that. I'm expecting the XRP. We haven't talked about XRP except to resolve the issue that will require a neutral
Neutral grid.
payment asset, bridge asset. But I expect a 100, 200 fold gain.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think we all have been waiting for a very
I
long
heard the
time
word
at this
"we" in
point.
there. Does that mean you're an investor?
Oh yeah, I've been holding XRP for years.
Oh, you got it under 50 cents.
I've been in
Okay.
since like
Well, I
2019.
know. But
2019 is when I got in.
wow, you're a
Yeah,
lot
so I've
earlier
been
than I.
well, I've been waiting, for a long time, and I try not to obsess over it because I don't think that's healthy, and I don't ever want to be greedy and be looking at price go up. So then this happens in my life. I really try not to live like that. But of course,
Well,
when XRP increases, that's going to benefit all of us, and I think we're going to have the ability to do a lot of good for the world, and I think
there are
that's what's
not many of
important.
us.
Yeah,
That's one reason that they're not going to force a buyout. They're not going to force like a $50 buyout. They're not going to do that. There are not many of us,
there's not so much retail.
and it's getting lower every
Yeah,
month. I
yeah.
don't mean the price. I mean the number of people holding.
Yeah, of course.
From the rich list.
You are like my professor teaching me. Like I feel like class is in session today.
Well, if we want to get into a lesson, I tell you one of the most interesting would be the inelasticity of silver demand and silver supply. And
Ooh,
I'll close on this note.
okay.
The price goes up and so does demand.
Mm-hmm.
The price goes up and supply also went down. 10 years ago, the supply from mining output was higher. 10 years ago, half the price. That's
Interesting.
not an economic issue, it's a geologic issue.
Okay.
We're
Okay.
exhausting the big silver mines.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's an argument that we're running out of silver. Why is it that versus 10 years ago, we're more than double the price, we're almost triple the price, 10% lower global output in mine supply for silver? We're running out. Invest in silver.
Yeah,
It's an
no, it makes
argument to
sense.
invest in
And then
silver.
also, I mean, in times of war, in time like with everything going on with AI, we need silver. It makes sense. If you're able to go buy some silver. Buy physical silver though.
Buy what you can
Yeah.
find.
I use you know what I use? I use I Trust Capital. Have you heard of I Trust Capital?
No.
A lot of people have IRAs, so you're able to buy physical gold and silver all inside a tax advantaged IRA. You can also buy XRP too. So like I rolled over my IRA back in 2020 and I put it in XRP and I don't have to pay taxes on it. And I also have gold and silver in there as well. And it's really good. I'm really glad I did that. I also I have my crypto in self custody as well, but this is a good way if you do have an IRA, if you want to roll it over.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, no, it is. It's like it was a lot of benefits to people. I'll link that down below too. But guys, everyone, check out Dr. Jim Willie's newsletter. It's great. I am a subscriber. I'm subscribed to his newsletter, and I'm really excited for his next one. I'll have that link down below. Please support him. He needs the support. He does so much good for this world. He's educating so many people. The least you can do is subscribe to his newsletter. I encourage you to do that today. If you have any extra income, subscribe.
I'm going to cancel your costs.
No, no, absolutely. I'll never talk to you again if you cancel it. That is one thing. No, I'm so appreciative of you coming on my show. The least I can do is
If I charge you more, will you talk to me more?
no, no, don't charge me anymore. The economy is going
so
good.
it's not elastic.
No, no. Well, it is a pleasure.
Okay.
I am very
All right. Well,
happy for
thanks for
you.
having me on. It's always a pleasure. And, we don't have to wait 2 months.
No, no, you were busy though. I didn't want to bother you. I know you're busy,
That's
but
right.
I'm not going to bother you.
I was almost incommunicado. It was a real challenge for me to get set up and do the February newsletter.
Yeah.
I was very worried. I got to get and it's a short month.
Yeah, yeah. You got this. You got this.
But
Well, I'm gonna have you back on whenever you want. So you just let me know, or I'll just bother you. I'll just message you like, "Come on my show."
Just knock on my door.
Okay,
Oh,
perfect.
all right. Thanks for having me on.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye now. Bye.
Thank you.